Do you want a personal assistant who knows everything that can help you to solve real-life problems 24/7? And most importantly, for free. Yes, ChatGPT can help us with that. I'm sorry, what? Oh, you've been using ChatGPT already, but your prompts look more like this, and this. Okay, and you're wondering why ChatGPT doesn't generate the result that you expected. And that is why I'm here today. I'm going to share with you my personal experience of how I use ChatGPT to help my son with his ADHD, which is a real-life issue for me and my son Jason as well. So you want to know about the result, and you wonder what prompts can you use to solve your problems, right? Don't worry, I've created an 8-step framework for you to follow. So before we dive into this, I assume you've already created your own ChatGPT account and you've been playing with this for a little time. So that I'm not going to cover the most basic stuff like how to register an account and what to click, where to look at. All right, without further ado, let's dive into this. So the first step is to clearly describe your problem. So when you start, you're going to aim to be as clear as possible about what you're asking. Think of this as the main question that ChatGPT will answer. So the more specific you are, the better ChatGPT can focus on your exact needs, which means you're going to avoid general or broad statements that might lead to equally broad and generic answers. For instance, in my case, instead of just saying, how can I help my son with his ADHD? I said, can you make a plan for me to help my son with his ADHD, improve focus, and manage his impulsivity? This keeps the focus tight and letting ChatGPT zero in on actionable strategies. The second step is to provide background information. This might include details about who you are, where you're from, your culture background, your routine, environment, or any factors that could influence the advice. So when you give ChatGPT some background information on the situation, it understands where you're coming from and can shape its response to fit your needs. For example, Jason is a 7-year-old who studies and lives in a city called Shenzhen in China. And he has difficulties focusing in class, and sometimes when he does his homework, he gets distracted and zoomed out easily. He also finds it hard to sit still or stand still, so he has to move around or do something to keep himself busy. He also gets frustrated easily when something doesn't go his way. So you see, in this section here, I explain who Jason is and also what the exact problems that he's facing. Then we go to step number 3, mention any personal preferences. Maybe you want your answer broken down into simple and everyday language, or perhaps you're preparing for a presentation and you want to sound like a pro. In this case, you need to detail your preferences. Let me give you an example here. I would prefer simple, straightforward language, avoid complex medical terminology so that it's easier for me to understand. Plus, could you focus on low-cost activities so that we can easily do them at home? And also, here's another tip. ChatGPT can learn your preference throughout your entire account. So if you like your answer to be produced in a specific language or format, you can say that to ChatGPT and tell it to remember it. The next time when you use ChatGPT, you don't have to repeat your preference over and over again. If you want ChatGPT to remember something, just say, for example, every time you research information on the internet for me, please go to reputable and trustworthy sources and produce content with APA citation format. And then when you see this little sign right there, you know it's done. So next time when you ask ChatGPT to search some information about a specific research, you will see it produces the content with APA citation format. Now let's go to the 4th step. State the purpose of your question. Whether it's for personal learning or you are writing a blog post or preparing for a presentation, you can let ChatGPT know. Let's say, for example, after I finish my research, I'm going to share this piece of content with some other parents who are also facing the same issue. In that case, I can say, I'm preparing a speech for a local parenting workshop on effective parenting techniques for ADHD children, so that ChatGPT knows this piece of content is for parents. Or you can also say, I'm giving a presentation to my 11th grade classmates, so that ChatGPT knows it should avoid complex language style. Now, after you say the purpose of your question, let's move on to the 5th step, which is set clear expectations. We need to be more upfront about how much detail or how many suggestions that you want exactly, instead of saying, hey, give me some suggestions. So what do you mean by some, right? How many ideas are some ideas? So in this case, you need to be more specific. I'm looking for 5 actionable tips that we can follow. And I want you to explain the scientific proof behind this. You should also provide examples so that I can have a better understanding. Now, after setting a clear expectations, now we're going to the sixth step. Specify the depth of the answer. How detailed do you want your answer to be? In this case, we can prevent ChatGPT from over-explaining or skipping crucial details. If you're short on time, ask for a summary. You want something more thorough, then you let ChatGPT know. Let me give you an example. In my case, I want everything in detail. I want to know every single bit about ADHD parenting. So I would say to ChatGPT that, hey, I'm looking for information in detail. Please don't give me just the bullet points with simple explanations. I want everything with topic sentence, reasons, and examples. Even though I mentioned about giving me examples in our fifth point, we can also talk about this here as well. That's not a problem. Now the video has been halfway through. If you find this video helpful so far, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button. And let's continue. After we talk about how deep we want our answer, we can move on to the next one. But the next step is not a necessary step. You can use it only when it's needed, which is to ask for multiple options. Because sometimes you will need a few options to choose from. For example, you are a YouTuber and you want a list of suggested titles, so you can choose the best one for your need. Or maybe picking a name for a newborn baby. In my case, I said to ChatGPT, could you suggest 3 budget-friendly ADHD focus exercises for me to choose from? And again, this step is optional and you can add this to anywhere you want in your prompt. Now we are going to the last step, which is clarify limitations or unwanted content. In some cases, you want to set some boundaries to ensure ChatGPT aligns with your preferences, right? In my case, I know that the latest medical research usually is published in English. Even though I sometimes communicate with ChatGPT in Chinese, but I still ask ChatGPT to do its research only on English websites. If I don't do that, it will go to some Chinese websites automatically. So sometimes I would say, please search English sites only. So after these 8 steps, here's a full prompts for you guys to take a look. Now, you think it's done, do you? No, it's actually not. One of the biggest things that ChatGPT can do is to gather information and do the analysis for you. So let's say, for example, I asked ChatGPT to generate a training plan for me, right? And after implementing this plan with Jason for a few weeks, I did hear some really good feedback from his teacher. And I was very happy too. But at the same time, his teacher also told me that he's been using some inappropriate language with his peers at school. So after talking to his teacher, I went back to the exact same GPT that I used to discuss about my son's training plan and to feed new information to it. So I told ChatGPT what Jason's teacher told me about and asked ChatGPT on how I can help Jason to avoid using inappropriate language at school. And I have to mention this, why I said I went back to the exact same GPT that I used to talk about my son's training plan is because in that GPT, it remembers everything that I fed it a while ago. So I don't have to do the introduction and also the background information all over again. And every time when you have an update, you go back to the exact same GPT and continue your communication. I think that's very handy, right? Okay, if you want a prompt that you can copy and paste and use it right away, please go to the link in my description. Now, I found very frustrated that Jason had to face all these challenges at school because the public education system in China is absolutely not friendly to children who need extra attention and help just like Jason. But along the way, I also feel very lucky because there are so many ways that we can work through these problems. Like I was born in 1989. 10, 20 years ago, we didn't have ChatGPT. If you have a problem like this, we need to read a lot of books, find information on magazines or newspapers or whatever, find information on different websites or talk to experts. But now, only a few prompts away, we get to learn anything and work with AI to cope with all sorts of problems we have. And there's one more thing, guys. I know a lot of you actually worry about being replaced by AI and end up losing your job. But here's the thing, I highly encourage you to learn to get to know about AI and ChatGPT because you will not be replaced by AI, but you might be replaced by people who know how to use AI. Okay, if you find this piece of content helpful, please make sure to hit that like and subscribe button because that really helps this channel to grow. And I will see you guys next time.